Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to JDC Israel's Winter Forum. I'd like to give a special welcome to Mark Suziski, President of the JDC Board, and to Ariel Zwang, CEO of JDC. Thank you both for being here. And actually, thank you for always being here. We need you. My name is Annie Sandler, and I'm the chair of JDC's Board Committee for Israel. Today's session is all about the wonders of technology and discovering new ways to maximize it. Technology has become an inseparable part of our lives. It has changed the way we live. We buy groceries online, fill prescriptions, schedule appointments, pay bills, find the best route home, all with a click of our phones. So why not use technology when we develop social services? Why not harness this ever-expanding platform to create new opportunities for those who need them the most? Our forum today will focus on this very issue. We will learn how JDC is using technology to create smart solutions to help our clients improve their quality of life, how technology can help us deliver better services more efficiently and to more people, and how technology can help us gather data that can help us fine-tune the services we deliver so that they can better be tailored to people that need what we are, to the people we are trying to reach. This is an exciting approach, one that brings the best minds from the business sector, the government of Israel, and the social sector all around the same table to deal with social challenges. Our guides for today are the experts from JDC, starting with Dr. Sigal Shela, CEO of JDC Israel. Now I'd like to turn the next part of the meeting over to Sigal. So take it away, Sigal. Thank you.
Thanks, Annie. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining. I know it's been tiresome to go on more and more Zooms, but so we really appreciate this time. I want to say before I start to introduce Ronnie Sapir, who's here with us, who's heading the digital data strategy in JDC Israel from the headquarters. And you know, when you really want a small revolution to happen, you need something that goes to bed with it at night and wakes up with us in the morning. And we have that champion, and she's very professional. So we're lucky to have her, and welcome. So, you know, who among us has not heard about Israel as being the startup nation? But what we really are is a nation of startups with the largest number of startups per capita in the Western world. And since Israel excels in innovation and technology, it is in our best interest to harness this tremendous asset to address the country's pressing social challenges. This is the goal that JDC is now pursuing in close coordination with the government of Israel. How are we doing this? Let's look at the challenge of greater independence for people with disabilities. In Israel today, people with disabilities do not have access to the opportunities and technological tools to participate fully in society and to build independent lives. One area where we can see this is the realm of public transportation. Transportation is such an integral part of our lives, and without a second thought, we use it to get to our jobs, to care for our health, to join in community life. And technology has made this easier than ever to plan routes, order train tickets, and catch buses. But many people with disabilities cannot simply catch a bus to get where they need to go. Limited access to public transportation reduces their independence, keeps them out of the workforce, and prevents them from contributing to society as employees, consumers, and volunteers. At JDC, we're now working to level this playing field. How many of you have heard of Move It? It's interesting. You can vote and we'll see. Move It is actually one of the world's most popular public transit apps. Homegrown in Israel, Move It consolidates real-time information about all forms of transportation in a given location so that a user can save time and get where they need to go. We recently signed a contract with Move It to create new accessibility options for people with disabilities, with all different types of disabilities. Let's see together how this could work.
Our main goal in Israel Unlimited is to maximize independent living for people with disabilities. We want to reduce the gap for equal opportunities to participate in the community between people with and without disabilities. Transportation has a critical role in doing this because transportation for all of us is the main way to get to work, to visit friends, to go to visit our families. It's the main way to be a participant in social, in economic, in community life. But the public transportation is not accessible enough. We don't have public transportation everywhere in Israel. Even in places that we have, a lot of times there's not enough buses. They stop in a place that is not good enough for people to use, and we need to make a big change. We used a survey that 6,000 people answered it, and we learned from the survey that people with disabilities, they want to use public transportation, but they don't have enough knowledge of how to use it or where they can find the information. So once we understood that we have a lack of data and we need some digital platform so everyone can use, we reached out to the data digital team here in JDC, and together we started to work with MoveIt.
So MoveIt simplifies urban mobility around the world and making cities better places to live, less congested, less polluted, safer to travel. And we do it by providing users an app that aggregates all the information and guidance that citizens need in order to travel using public transportation and shared transportation in a safer and convenient way.
MoveIt and Joint are sitting together in a round table and thinking of ways and solutions to improve and enhance the MoveIt application in a way that we can reach every person with different kinds of disabilities, not only people with motor disabilities, also with people with cognitive disabilities.
I'm very, very excited to work with MoveIt. Together, we build something new that everyone wins.
MoveIt brings to the table the cutting-edge technology and the data, and the Joint brings to the table the social know-how. And together, we can really improve the lives of people with disabilities.
I just met a gorgeous 25-year-old guy that he lives in some institution. And I asked him, what is your dream? He told me he loves hamburgers, but he cannot go to the mall by himself. He always needs someone to go with him. We trained him to use the MoveIt app. And after a few days, he called me and he told me that he went by himself to eat a hamburger on the mall. He told me it was the best day of his life. If we really care about our clients, technology solutions is the right way to do it.
So as we saw, JDC and MoveIt are leading the way to make transportation more accessible here in Israel. But there is also potential for a global impact. MoveIt has over 1 billion users in 347 cities and that speak 45 languages. Just imagine the possibilities if they take our adaptations to their app and to benefit people with disabilities around the world. Amazing. What's more, our partnership with MoveIt goes beyond improved transportation access for people with disabilities. We have an agreement with MoveIt that the data collected in the app can be used by JDC. So what does it mean? Using the MoveIt data, we can learn what types of transportation people with disabilities prefer. We can learn about where people with disabilities go and where they don't go. And then we can dig deeper and ask why people with disabilities are avoiding certain locations. Maybe the venue is not accessible. All of this information can be channeled to make policy decisions that will make public transportation more accessible for people with disabilities and society as a whole. What else can data do for us? In addition to informing decision-making, as takes place with the MoveIt app, data can be at the core of the program's operation. A great example of the use of data can be seen in our employment initiative in partnership with Retrain, an Israeli startup. Retrain is partnering with us on one of our flagship workforce integration programs called Avodata. The name of the program is a fusion of the Hebrew word avodah, which means work, and the word data, which means data. So Avodata is the first technical platform that uses big data to help low-income Israelis choose the right career path. How does that work? Avodatta uses AI, artificial intelligence, to gather data about the Israeli job market in real time. It analyzes this data and feeds the results to user-friendly web platform that low-wage Israelis can use to learn how to choose and prepare for lucrative career in high demand. Let's see a movie about it.
The problem that we're trying to solve in Retrain is the skills gap. In simple words, the skills gap, if you ask every employer what their major concern is, talent, people, getting more people to do the job. If you look at most of the economies, you see that unemployment is on the rise. So how can you explain this phenomenon? On the one side, there is a need for supply, and on the other side, there is demand. Why does the supply and demand not meet each other? So in Retrain, we believe that this is a data problem, and we're using data and artificial intelligence to help bring insights into the skills gap challenge.
Our end goal is to close social economic gaps in Israel by ensuring that all people, especially those who have less access to information, are able to make data-based decisions about where to work, where to study, and how to make progress in their careers and in their livelihoods based on what's really going on in the job market.
Our mission in Retrain, helping people find new jobs, is right on the spot with Tevet's mission. We both understood that it's all about people, it's all about data, and bringing the two together.
We would never be able to have this type of a project without the joint Tevet. Okay? The reason for that is that this is the ideal organization that from one hand can speak the language of the high-tech companies, okay? And at the same time understand the requirements of the government departments and can do the relevant connections.
This is our opportunity to take career guidance from the physical domain into the virtual domain, into the digital domain. And it allows us to provide more service to more people, more efficiently, and in this case, much more accurately as well. So it's taking career guidance into the 21st century.
Avodatta is a website that for the first time allows everyone in Israel to understand what are the occupational opportunities in any given sector, in any given geography within the country in real time.
And we are creating a database that is going to be the most accurate one and that will be able to serve any need that the labor market will require.
For the people that are not connected, that don't have the digital literacy, that don't have access, don't have the knowledge or the information at their fingertips, decision-making about jobs and career is harder than ever before. So Avodatta comes to solve that problem by making that information accessible to the public.
Lots of people are losing their job because of AI. We are going to use AI in order to find new jobs for these people. Okay? We are going to make these people more relevant and more equipped for the jobs of the future.
So Avodatta is a great example of how we can combine data analysis and a digital platform to create new solutions that reach more people. So we're starting to see that data is the new gold. It may be considered the world's most valuable resource. And as social service innovator, JDC can use data to uncover trends that are related to Israel's struggling citizens. What factors are causing their distress? What is the best strategy to provide assistance? How can we better tailor a service to meet their needs? Moreover, data can help us measure our outcomes and impact in a more comprehensive way. The next video clip can show us just that.
A couple of years ago, I had this enlightenment. I actually understood data is my passion and it's what I want to do. It's my professional future. Together with the strategic process in JDC, I reskilled and upskilled and I was able to put myself in this new position of data analyst. We built a tool, a business intelligence tool, cutting edge, that is able to bring all the various data from different sectors and areas of life and put it together in order for us to make better decisions.
Data is not only a nice to have, it's essential to our ability to change our thinking into impact thinking, into result-driven thinking.
Bottom line, I believe this is a game changer for us because this strategic tool provides us a chance to identify problems and strategic inequities between the populations. It allows us to set the goals we want to achieve, and most importantly, it allows us to measure our outcomes in the programs that we develop. We had this wow, an aha moment with Families First programs, which is a wide national program for families in poverty. When we opened the data set, we found that there was a tipping point within the third year of the program, and this tipping point involved earning better wages and holding better job posts. This was a golden insight. It changed our mindset, and we were able to reframe the cause of action we are taking within the program. Once we realized this, a whole new window of hope opened for us and for the families. So we fought for every one of our participants to reach the third year of the program, to move in the right direction of better life.
In creating our data platforms, our data infrastructure, JDC is leading the social arena into result-driven thinking. Data analysis enables us to create the knowledge that we need in order to make policies, create effective services, and data analysis over our populations is something that we find ourselves responsible for. We want to collect it, we want to create it.
The most important thing about data is knowing how to translate it into actionable item. If data stays data and nothing changes, then we didn't do our job.
We want to touch policymakers. We want to answer their questions in a way that will allow them to make the policies that will effectively impact our populations.
So we would like to break here for a few minutes and take some questions. And we have most of our division heads and deputies and Ronnie here to be a resource for any kind of questions. So you can ask really, really difficult ones as well.
Well, I have a question, Sigal. I'd like to ask how if the professionals could give me an example, maybe it's all an example, of how the data that we just heard about goes to a ministry or a department in the Israeli government and drives a decision-making process, a real life example of that in a few minutes.
Sure, we can do it. I'm thinking if to maybe Ronnie, do you want to take it? Ariel, Levy, Ronnie?
I thought of giving an example from Ariel's division.
Yeah,
so,
I imagine
Ariel,
so.
If you'd like to take it, I'd be happy. Ariel,
do it, Ronnie, it's okay.
Okay. Okay, so I think Ashalim has a great example for that. They have Nativim program in which the Ministry of Education uses data in order to make decisions about students that have, I don't know the word, nishira, dropout, right. So that are in risk of dropout just before the dropout happens so that they can reach out to those students in order to help them to prevent the dropout from indeed happening. And this is something that uses data because risk assessment of future dropout requires data in order to be able to do it. Another risk assessment and preventive program that Shalim has in the Ministry of Education has to do with dropout of teachers in the system so that they can prevent teachers from falling out from the system. And we have a shortage of teachers, and that's another way of how we support the system with data in order to make the right decisions, the personal right decision.
The program is about 6 different initiatives concerning using data in order to get better decisions in the high level of the Ministry of Education. And these decisions and developing of the data is going, few of them is going directly down to schools. Now, Daniel, that you saw at the movie, is actually the developer of that program. So Daniel is here if you want to know more information.
Thank you, Ariel.
Can I ask a question?
I have a question. This is for Rooney. As the person who's leading the data and digital innovation in the organization, what's the big change that's happening in JDC Israel that you see going forward?
Thank you. I didn't thank you all for being here. I'm so excited about this. And I think the biggest change is in the way our various divisions look into data when they set out themselves in the early stages of each and every development work that we do into data and into digital. I think they are open, they are flexible, they are proactive in taking data and digital into their into the development process, and it has to do with looking at partnerships with startups as a real possibility. It has to do with looking at data as a real asset that we're responsible for. It has to do with looking at scalability and personalization as real options that we can use in the development process and in our results, of course, and in new sources of data for the way we measure our success, new and very innovative sources of data for the way we measure our success. And I think we have a long way still to go, but our work is revolutionized in that way.
Thank you, Rooney. I think there's another hand up, but it's a cell phone number or something.
I see Ariel had a question. I think Ken, did you want to ask something? I think I heard something from your direction. Ken Whitaker.
Trish, and then Trisha.
Wait. So Ariel, then
I defer. We went past it. It's fine. I defer. Thank you.
Okay. Andy Danto had a question.
I have a question as well.
I'm writing everyone down. And someone with the phone number, which we don't recognize, 547-820, who's that?
May I ask a question?
Howard Stanton. It's Elizabeth.
Okay,
Elizabeth Barrett. I'm sorry, I don't know why it doesn't have my name. I'll change it.
Okay, the list is getting longer.
Let's start with Trisha, then Sandy, then Howard, and then
Elizabeth.
The phone number.
Thank you.
Oh, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, hi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Shtigal.
Okay, so
sorry about that.
Trisha, take it away.
Trisha.
Okay, I was wondering what the financial relationships are with the companies that you're working with in terms of the data. Do we pay them? Are they paying us? How does that all work?
Do you maybe let Howard Stanton answer your question? Great question. Yes and yes and yes, and we're still figuring this out, okay? And this is one of the big questions is how do we, first of all, contract with these commercial partners? How do we maybe commercialize from this? And we do in some cases, but we're all in the very beginning stages. And I'd say that Howard Stanton was kind enough to help us think about this going forward as well. So Howard and then Elizabeth and Sandy. Sorry, Sandy, Howard, Elizabeth.
Hi, everybody. So my question is with Avoddata, and I've looked at the material. This is probably the third time. What I want to understand is it's basically, as I understand it, for low-income Israelis. I'm making perhaps an erroneous assumption that low-income Israelis do not have the accessibility to technology. And this is all about helping them find the right career path and find the right job. So that there's a gap there for me in understanding how low-income Israelis get to the technology.
Okay, good. So Ronnie Dudai, I saw is with us. Would you like to take that, or Ronnie?
I can start, Ronnie, if you want to add, Sigal, if you want to add. I'll just say that, first of all, Avodata is a beginning of a website that actually gives access to strategic data for decision making in the working force. So it's more focusing right now on the strategic decision. The second phase would be more focused on the individual and the decision he makes on his personal level. So that would be the second level. And I think that you're speaking right on the spot, how to get the people using it in that way. Ronnie, do you want to add?
I'd like to add, please, two things. One is, I think it's a great question, and I think we also have a lot of effort that is invested into digital literacy of the lower income populations, and we have a large-scale initiative that runs all through JDC in this respect, and this is something that has to succeed in order for each and every of our digital solutions to get to our direct population. So it's really something that has to work together. But I think there's another thing here about how we share information, how we proactively give people the ability to use information that is accessible to people, not necessarily with higher impact, but surely with higher social status. We can ask around us about many things that are less available to people in lower social and of course economic status. And I think we should see that as well. They could have the best digital abilities, but they do not have the information that is so accessible to us. And Avodata takes care of this as well. If you look at enabling the various people that look for the way to get to a better job, to get to any role that they aspire to have, and what the training they need to take in order to get there is, this is something we would ask our neighbors, and making the information available, I think, is a huge thing to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie. Let's go on to Howard and then Elizabeth.
Thank you. Very interesting. Most of the data I see, which is very interesting, coming from government sources and from JDC Israel, is out of date almost by the time you get it. When you're dealing with artificial intelligence, you need up-to-date and reliable data. How can you be sure that you're getting fed up-to-date, reliable, accurate and honest data, both from the government and potential employers? I could add on to that. Sorry?
No, you were in the middle, Howard?
Well, I wanted to also add on to that. Are you dealing with all populations? One of the previous questions was, how do you adapt to different levels of the population? How soon do you expect to be able to drill down into different segments of the population within the population itself? And also, what about health and safety requirements of sharing the integrity of data? Will employers take advantage of the app for free and give misleading information? And will they also disrupt employees to seek to change jobs when they're not right for the jobs? So then how do you filter the quality of the employees who may think of changing a job, and be honest with them to make sure they only get directed to a job that may fit them, suits them and benefits them? A lot of questions, but
no, it's a questions for a seminar. So maybe we'll just, I'll do the first one really quickly, and then maybe Ronnie, you can add to one of the second ones, and Howard, we will continue. These are excellent questions. Just to say about the timing of the data. So We used most of the data that we used to use was the Central Bureau of Statistics data, National Insurance data, some of the tax authorities data. Mostly the Central Bureau of Statistics data is from a year and a half or 2 years ago, okay, each time. I have to say two things. We're using a lot more than the Central Bureau of Statistics data today, and we're integrating data from different sources to actually have some as real-time data as we can use, and we're tapping into all jobs and other business companies that actually hold a lot of data in the Israeli job market, and they're being worked in to actually fit where we need to go. By the way, we're running a little bit ahead of the government because of that, because not all the data is validated yet by the government, and we need to go ahead. So this is one, you're absolutely right. That's one of the problems. I would say that I sit on some committees of the Central Bureau of Statistics, and they also are thinking about how to use real-time data. So it's not only happening in JDC, it's happening at the same time in the government as well. So that's for your first question. Maybe Ronnie, do you want to take, but really, really shortly, the second one, and then we'll jump to Elizabeth.
Really shortly, I would just say, yeah, that as far as we can use data that comes from real usage of applications of the internet, as far as we can use just the data that people leave behind them as they use the applications, this is a very accurate data because no one feeds us with the data. It's just the usage data.
Sigal, one more comment about that.
Yeah, sure, Aria.
Howard is very consistent with his questions. And I just want to mention that throughout the programs, we have much more update data around families or students. In the programs, we have day-to-day data or month-to-month, depends on the program and the uses of data in each one of the programs. It's not national-wide, but it's program-wise.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to Elizabeth, waited patiently.
Thank you for this presentation. It's really interesting. I know that we all wish that there were more money and more time. There was more time to put into all kinds of programs to help Israel flourish. And I know I've seen remarkable programs come out of JDC Israel, this being one of them. And my question is, in terms of planning the allocation of scarce resources, of scarce assets for the Israeli budget, that is money and time, and the attention of key people, how large are these tech programs compared to all programs, and what priority do they have? I'm having a little trouble putting these things into context. We're focusing on one small piece, but I'm having trouble understanding how much of your time or Ronnie's time is taken and how much, what's your intention? And then of course, there's a question of how you evaluate, but I don't think we have time for that.
Yeah, so great question. I would say I divided into two, okay? In terms of headquarters time, we actually put a person in a job that wasn't there before, okay? So we went from 0 to 100. And we're putting in a lot of efforts into this because we think without concentrating on digital and data, we don't have a future in the world of services and social services because, at least in aging, that the population is growing. We will need to be very, very creative with the same amounts of money to actually serve everyone. And so digital data information in the future, hopefully robotics and other things that we don't have to invent, but we need to know how to tap into in a smart way and to bring the government into it. So in terms of headquarters,
but Sigal, that brings me to Michael Novik's question, which is, in terms of that, aren't we getting a lot of data from our two other, Brookdale and Myers Brookdale and Taub Center?
Taub is a little different. Taub is actually either working on very deep research in the researchers or analyzing data that actually exists in order to inform policy. What Brookdale does is they have a lot of data that is collected around programs, and this is one of the efforts is that we're sitting with Brookdale thinking, looking into the future, how we can combine and data lake all of this data. So yes, the answer is yes, there is, especially in Brookdale in terms of data, a lot of data, and we are working on that. I'll say that in the program area, because I said two things, this is not actually over and above. It's actually part of what we do. In every program that we develop, we're asking, what is the best way to work towards people with disability to have total accessibility to public transportation? If it's technology and partnering with Move It works better than now training person by person how to use a bus, then this is what we're going to do. And it actually replaces things that we've done before. So it's a different way of thinking. And it's usually a combination. It's not only technology, it's not only non-technology, it's together. So in terms of that, we don't even, when we map what we do in the different divisions, we can put aside what is technological and data, but it's not even that anymore. It's just the way, the perception of everything we do. We need to think if we're pulling in data, digital and technological solutions too.
I think that's a very compelling point, but could you give me some idea of, I'm trying to think of it in terms of budget, of time and money. Can you give me an idea of allocation of scarce resources? Did something move aside? Did you go out and fundraise? How are you funding this, and how is it in
Riva,
terms
do you want to talk about it? Because it's actually interesting question.
Sure. Yeah. The overall budget for the central system in JDC, or the headquarters of the budget, is about 2 million. Some of it is matched by the government of Israel. We put it in as part of our budget for the next 5 years, it being a central part of what we do. And then in each department, they have different budgets allocated for different programs that we do. So on the one hand, we have the central headquarters, which Ronnie oversees, which is about 2 to 2.5 million. I don't remember the exact amount. And then each department has a certain amount that they allocate, as Sigal mentioned, from their program budget towards technological applications or smart solutions, as well as for data use.
You mean 5 million, 2 million over 5 years, or 2 million each year?
2 million each year.
Each year. How much is the Israeli government covering? Half?
In some places, it's 50%. In some
cases, approximately, okay. On average of the 2 million, do you know how much it is?
Yeah, we achieved something that we didn't plan on achieving. The first is that we did add across the board budget for data and digital in the new contract, and it wasn't there before. And secondly, Ronnie, together with the Ministry of Welfare, and received a really large budget for programs mostly for elderly, but not only. It allows us to really develop, it's about, hopefully it will be signed, but about 9 million shekels over a few years to actually develop solutions that are more across the board, not a specific program, but more of an infrastructure to continue to work.
Very
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, we have a program, but I think the questions are even more important. Yeah. So, Riva, it's you are.
I would go for the questions, and then we'll.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Richard. Thank you.
Can you explain a little more the nature of the collaboration with these private companies? I take it they're private sector companies who spoke earlier in the video. Are we asking them to provide customized data sets to our specifications for which we pay them a fee? Is the relationship with these entities the same?
Yeah. It's actually really interesting because with each company it's a little different. So you remember the first actually startup that we started was with Eshel, with the elderly and VisiCare, and there we contracted and paid them to expand the pilot to test our target population with their tool. And also we are sort of investors in the company, okay? We decided to take some money and also invest. And Ronnie, do you want to say something about move it and retrain in terms of the business model? But we're learning from it. It's just the baby steps. Okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say we don't pay for data. That's not yet, and I hope we will not pay for data. But we do receive data as part of the large partnerships that we make. In Move It, it's a joint venture, actually. So we have a half contract with them, and that's the way we work. And the data is part of the contract, but it's not something that we pay for. And in Retrain, maybe Rani would like to describe how the contract works.
In Retrain, it's the same. It's half, and they're giving us the full access to the data. We're sharing all the knowledge together, and we have the ability to work separately if we decide later on. But it's a joint venture with them. They invest as well as we invest.
Great. Are there any more questions? I think Mark's hand is up. Anybody after Mark? And then we'll hopefully move on. I don't want to slight anybody, but we do have a little more program.
Okay. Annie, so do you want me to continue? Or?
There's a question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
Not a two-part, Mark. Do you have a question?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. There are several marks on here. What I was curious about, is there a way to allow people without internet access to utilize the information through a phone hotline or something of that sort? And also, how is the national infrastructure keeping up with providing internet access, particularly in the periphery?
Ronnie, that's for you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I didn't understand your question. Could you repeat it, please?
Sure. Of the two most important, how is the national infrastructure keeping up with the need for internet access, and particularly
now I understand. Yeah, with the internet.
And my second question was whether or not there were access for people without technology to phone hotlines where somebody can access the information for them.
We're not. I have to say this is part of our view on digital literacy. That's the part where infrastructure supports digital literacy. We're not invested into the infrastructure in ways of development by now. It's not a direction that we took. We're actually looking more into the capabilities of people. And I have to say that I'm not sure we're keeping up, and I don't have enough information to be accurate, but I can say that through Corona, some moves were done in order to enable better access to the periphery.
Thank you, Roni. Hey, Sigal, I think we should move on so we don't shortchange Elka.
Yeah, so we saw how we work with the business sector, and we have still the national, local government. You touched upon that. Social service organizations. These are agencies who have the mandate to improve the lives of people at risk, and most of them do not actually have the capacity and the orientation for tech that the business sector has. So small towns, peripheral locations, the public services are not even digitalized. This affects the quality of life and especially vulnerable populations. And the pandemic even, made this more pronounced, but even before we had already been working to help public sector digitalize. Within a few weeks of COVID, it was clear that we needed to do more. So in a survey that was conducted in March, we learned that only 50 out of the 174 municipalities that we surveyed could actually function remotely, less than 1/3. So many local municipalities, especially those in the periphery, lacked basic computer backup or cloud storage and were paralyzed when COVID hit. So we created a pilot to help weaker local municipalities to upgrade their technology in line with their residents' most pressing needs. Let's see more about this effort.
כסייפה זה יישוב שהוקם בשנת 1982-83. היישוב היום מונה כ-22,000 תושבים. ואנחנו נותנים שירותים לעוד כ-15,000 תושבים נוספים חוץ מתושבי המקום.
יישוב בדואי שנמצא במדד חברתי אחד. חלק מהתושבים שהמועצה משרתת יושבים בפזורה הבדואית, כך שאין להם תשתיות, לא חשמל וגם לא אינטרנט. פרסנו אינטרנט וי-פיי בכל היישוב, על מנת לחסות כמה שיותר גם בתים שיוכלו ליהנות מהאינטרנט. בשלב הבא אנחנו מנסים להגיע לכולם. תוכנית ההטמעה מרחוק זה שיתוף פעולה בין ישראל דיגיטלית, משרד הפנים וג'וינט אילקה.
העבודה עם הג'וינט היא מצוינת, יש בינינו שיתוף פעולה, הקמנו ועדת היגוי יישובית, הג'וינט הם חלק מהוועדת היגוי יישובית.
ובנינו ביחד תוכנית אב דיגיטל ל3 שנים הבאות. בתחום הדיגיטל, החזון של הרשות זה להגיע למילוי כל הצרכים של התושב בצורה המתקדמת ביותר והדיגיטלית ביותר. ודרך הסמארטפון יוכל לגשת לכל בקשה ולשגר אותה מרחוק מבלי שיהיה צורך להגיע לרשות עצמה.
דבר אחד זה אישורי תושב. בשנה אנחנו מנפיקים כ3,000 אישורי תושב. זה דבר שאנחנו הנגשנו אותו כבר וזה עובד. וזה עובד מצוין. ולאט לאט אנחנו רוצים שאף תושב לא יגיע למועצה לקבל אישור תושב. דבר שני, הרישום ילדים. אנחנו בשנה הראשונה הצלחנו חלקית, כמעט 50%. השנה הזאת היעד שלנו שנגיע לרישום מקוון מרחוק 70-80%.
ברישום לגנים ספציפית, אנחנו דווקא הופתענו לתוצאות. ראינו שרוב הנרשמים נרשמו באופן דיגיטלי, מה שלא חשבנו שיקרה בבניית התוכנית בהתחלה.
חלק מההורים היו בבידוד, חלק מההורים היו מאומתי קורונה, חלק מההורים היו בעבודה, חלק מההורים אין לו זמן לבוא למועצה.
אבא של עלי, חוויתי את זה, נכנסתי לאתר של המועצה, שלחו לינקים, ומשם אני נכנסתי ורשמתי את הבן שלי איפה שאני רוצה ובגן שאני רוצה. זה ממש משהו נפלא. וגם כל היישוב חווה אותה חוויה שאני חוויתי. ובאמת, תודה רבה למועצה של המועצה המקומית כסייפה.
וזה אומר שהכל אפשרי, זה מעודד אותנו להמשיך להתקדם עם כל התהליכים שבנינו בתוכנית האב. אם אנחנו לא נתקדם בתחום הזה, אנחנו נייצר יותר פער.
הנושא של הדיגיטציה היישובי, זה נושא שמהר מאוד נוציא אותו לפועל. אני כבר הנחיתי היום את הצוות שלי במטה, כבר לבחור גם מנטור, להעמיד אותו לרכז את כל הנושא הדיגיטלי ביישוב, ומהר מאוד נוציא את זה לפועל.
So as we saw with the help of JDC Elka, the Council of Kseifa is taking major technological strides. You saw expanding internet access throughout its jurisdiction and enabling digital registration for kindergarten and other services. But, and I think you guys raised this, all of these innovations will not actually make a real change in the lives of Israelis that we serve if we do not improve for those who need their digital literacy. What good is transportation app or career counseling website if someone doesn't know how to use a computer? And I'd like to introduce you to Didi Ben Shalom, who's leading JDC's effort to improve the digital literacy of Israel's most vulnerable citizens. Didi,
hi,
where are you?
Oh, good. Here. Yeah, so a few of you asked this question in different ways, and it's true, we're doing all this amazing work, but if our end users can't, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the skills, or they don't have the motivation to use these tools, then the change is going to be very, very limited. So we really need to complement these programs with programs that promote digital literacy among the vulnerable populations that we serve. And I'll give you some numbers. Howard, some of them are from the Bureau of Statistics, but some of them were much more recent from surveys that we've been running. So among older adults, we looked at during COVID that only 16% don't use the internet at all, which is a much better number than it used to be. But among those who do, only 40% use only very basic tools, looking for information and WhatsApp. And this is very similar among people with disabilities. Only 82% of working age adults use the internet. This is in comparison to 93% in the general population. And it doesn't sound like a huge gap, but again, we need to look at what kind of use people are doing. So if only 35% are shopping online in comparison to 60% in the general population, which was very significant during COVID, same numbers also apply for government services and paying bills. Same picture again with the Arab population, even though we saw this amazing video now from Seifa, 30% are not connected to the internet nationwide, and about 90% of the population aged 25 don't have the basic skills needed for education, for employment, for banking, for healthcare services. With children, 30% of the population is not connected to the internet at home. Again, trying to learn online when schools are closed was a huge challenge in that sector. And in the Haredi population, only 35% don't use the internet at all. So we still have these really, really big gaps that prevent people access from day-to-day tools and activities and really deepen social and economic gaps. On a positive note, having digital skills is correlated with resilience. During COVID, we surveyed older adults, and we found that those that had a higher level of digital literacy were more equipped to deal with isolation, with the lack of activities, financial concerns, and maintaining their health. So I've been managing JDC's program to promote digital literacy among older adults since 2018. And the goal of the program is to understand what digital skills older adults need and how best to teach them. So we started in the classic classrooms, but during COVID, we had to rapidly move online. And this was a huge challenge since the tools that we were trying to teach were also the ones that you actually need in order to learn. So these programs were very, very supported. We had a call center, we had technical support, and we also had a lot of emotional support to empower people to believe that they can learn how to use these tools. And we've reached 3,000 people so far, which isn't a huge number in comparison to the issue, but we also did a very large train-the-trainer programs. We reached 50 organizations and municipalities that work with older adults, and we estimate that through them, we reached another 30,000 during 2021. Moving forward, and it's been very successful, and we're gonna now start a similar initiative with other population groups like people with disabilities. We also created a handbook for designers of digital tools to help them understand the unique needs of older adults when they design technology, since a lot of them don't know what these needs are and are usually very young. Some of you that have met me before already heard this, that I've been in the field of digital literacy for over 12 years now. And most of my professional life, I heard that this is a nice to have skill. There was very little understanding about how critical this aspect of our lives is. And COVID, with all of its challenges, changed that, and dramatically. The entire ecosystem today, if it's the government, the businesses, nonprofits, and people themselves, understand that this is a must-have skill and are willing to invest energy and time and money to learn and to narrow the gaps. And this is also true at JDC. So I'm very happy with my new role that is designed to help all of our divisions develop programs in each of the large-scale initiatives that will promote the digital skills needed to achieve the goals in those initiatives. So we always say about digital literacy, it's not the end goal, but it's helping us reach those goals. And we're working, of course, with Digital Israel and looking at this challenge on a national level. And I really think that in a few years, we're going to be seeing a very significant move in the needle among the populations that JDC serves. So I'm very optimistic about that.
Thank you, Didi.
Just one last, one more line.
Are you doing all divisions or all divisions in Israel?
In Israel, JDC
Okay,
Israel.
thank you.
Just going back to older adults, we want to show you this short video of a participant in a program that we're running today with JDC Israel and the Ministry of Affairs. And we're not only teaching, but we're also handing out end devices, which is a first time for us. There are 1,000 participants in this pilot, 900 of them are homebound. And this is SIMI,
one of our homebound participants, and Galit, her tutor.
איך את נכנסת לספורט?
התעמלות בית על הכיסא עם גומי.
וזה כתב לך את זה בדיוק, התעמלות בית על הכיסא עם גומי.
אני בן ברוך סימי, בת 85.
סימי משתתפת במיזם לגיל השלישי, שבו הם מקבלים טאבלטים ומקבלים הכשרה כדי להפעיל את הטאבלטים האלה.
גלית מגיעה, מוצאת את הטאבלט, פותחת אותה, והיא עושה פעם ראשונה, אז אמרה, עכשיו תעשיתי מה שאני עשיתי. אני חוזרת אחריה, בסדר, אמרה לי, אלופת. כל הכבוד שאת תופסת.
את נכנסת בעצם לאן עכשיו?
הייתי יושבת כמו גולם, ככה, מול הקר. אחר כך עכשיו אני תופסת, אני מתעסקת איתו, אני עושה וואטסאפ, אני עושה פייסבוק, שמולות של הכלב, רוצה שמלות, עוגות, אוכל, הכל, הכל. הכל יש בו, כל מה שאת צריכה יש בו.
מה הייתה איך את מרגישה?
ככה. ראיתי בת אחותי לאמריקה, וראיתי את הילדים שלה, שלא ישכחו אותנו.
צריך תמיכה פה, אפילו ברמת זה בסדר מה שאתה עושה, ולתת את הגיבוי. בהתחלה זה ככה, אני לא מצליח, אני לא יודע, קשה לי, ובאמת לאט הם רואים שזה אפשרי. המיזם הזה של הטאבלט הוא כולל בתוכו מכל הארץ בערך 1,000 קשישים. יש הדרכות שבאמת של מרותקי בית, של אנשים שלא יכולים לצאת מהבית, שמחבר אותם למשפחה ולבחוץ ולבכלל, והופך להם את השנים האלה לשנים טובות יותר.
מוזיקה אני אוהבת הרבה של ערבית. כל שמרוקו שעוד לא שמעתי, בתוך 50 שנה ו4 שאני פה, אני שומעת קצת. אבל למה לא? באמת ככה. זה נתן לי כוח. אני מבסוטית, אני שמחה. אני אגיד לך.
So we are up to the last minute, so I'll give Annie the closing remark just to say that, you know, when Simi said at the end, this gives me strength, I'm content, I'm happy. That's what we want for our older Israelis, and this is what we want for all our vulnerable clients. So thank you, and Annie, to you.
Sensational program. Thank you to all the presenters. Dee, amazing. You know, every time I see these things, and the last video was like, you know, you need a couple handkerchiefs for these, because you can't believe what a world this woman now sees after, you know, 54 years of not hearing Moroccan music. It's phenomenal. So thank you, JDC Israel. Thank you for all you do every single day in representing us and all of our clients. You are sensational. I think it's been a fascinating session, and I'm excited to see how JDC Israel's proactive approach is expanding its horizons and creating new ways for achieving and measuring its impact. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at the next forum. And also, without your interaction and without your ongoing critiques, you know, these sessions would not be this informative, and they wouldn't be this exciting or sensational. So thanks for all you do, each and every board member, guest, activist on the call. Really appreciate it. And see you on the flip side. Thank you.